Few people realize that one of the most powerful stories about healing in the entire Bible isn't he about a devout follower or a righteous king. Instead, it's about a powerful, proud military commander from an enemy nation. This story changes everything we think we know about who God is willing to help and how he chooses to do it. It reveals a profound truth. Even when you feel utterly hopeless, stuck in a situation you can't control, and maybe even skeptical of a way out, God can still meet you right where you are. But his solution might not look anything like what you expect. It might feel strange, illogical, or even beneath you. What happens when pride meets divine power? The story of Naaman holds the answer. And it's a lesson in humility, obedience, and the surprising nature of God's grace. Our story takes place around the 9th century BC, a time of tension and conflict between the kingdom of Israel and its neighbor to the north, Aram, also known as Syria. The commander of the Aramean army was a man named Naaman. The Bible, in the second book of Kings, chapter 5, describes him as a great man, highly regarded by his king, and a valiant soldier. Through him, the Lord had given victory to Aram. He had everything a man of his time could want: power, prestige, wealth, and the respect of his king. But despite all his victories on the battlefield, Naaman was fighting a private war he could not win. He had leprosy. In the ancient world, leprosy was more than just a physical disease. It was a slow, creeping death sentence. It meant isolation, shame, and a future of progressive decay. His armor could hide his power, but it couldn't hide his pain or his inevitable fate. This mighty warrior, feared by his enemies, was utterly helpless against the disease consuming his own body. The stage is set for a desperate man with immense pride to seek a cure from the most unlikely of sources. The first glimmer of hope came from a very unexpected place. In one of Aram's raids against Israel, they had taken a young Israelite girl captive, and she now served Naaman's wife. Seeing the suffering of her master, this girl said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." Think about the courage of this young girl, a captive in a foreign land, yet she held no bitterness. Instead, she offered a solution rooted in her faith in the God of Israel. Her simple words set in motion a chain of events that would change Naaman's life forever. Hearing this, Naaman went to his king, the king of Aram, and told him what the girl had said. Eager to save his prized commander, the king sent Naaman off with a letter to the king of Israel, along with a lavish gift of silver, gold, and fine clothing, a payment fit for a king. But here's where the first misunderstanding happens. When the king of Israel read the letter, which said, "With this letter I am sending my servant Naaman to you so that you may cure him of his leprosy," he tore his robes in distress. He exclaimed, "Am I God? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this man send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me." The king of Israel saw a political trap, not a request for divine healing. He felt powerless. But news of the king's panic reached Elisha, the man of God. Elisha sent a message back to the king. "Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel." Elisha wasn't interested in politics or payment. He was interested in demonstrating the power of the one true God. So Naaman, with all his horses, chariots, and attendants, a grand procession of power and wealth, arrived and stood at the door of Elisha's humble home. He was a VIP, expecting a grand reception, a magical incantation, or some elaborate ritual. But Elisha didn't even come out to greet him. Instead, he sent a messenger with a simple, almost insulting instruction. Go, wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River, and your flesh will be restored and you will be cleansed. Naaman was furious. His pride was deeply wounded. He had traveled all this way, brought a fortune, only to be told to go dip in a muddy river. He said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot, and cure me of my leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed? He turned and went away in a rage, ready to abandon his only hope because it didn't fit his expectations. This is the critical moment of the story. Naaman's pride was a bigger obstacle than his leprosy. Thankfully, his servants had the wisdom he lacked. They approached him and said, My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more, then, when he tells you, wash and be cleansed? Their gentle reasoning broke through his anger. Humbled, Naaman listened. He went down to the Jordan River, this great commander, and did exactly as the man of God had told him. He dipped himself in the water not once, not twice, but 7 times. And after the 7th time, the Bible says his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. He was completely healed. The miracle wasn't in the water of the Jordan. It was in the act of humble obedience to God's command. So, what is the deeper meaning for us today? Naaman's story teaches us that God's methods are not our methods. We often come to God with our own set of expectations, wanting a grand, dramatic solution to our problems. We want the lightning bolt, the earthquake, the loud voice. But sometimes, God's instruction is simple, quiet, and requires a step of humble obedience. Like Naaman, we might be tempted to dismiss it as too simple or even foolish. Just pray, just trust, just forgive. The healing for Naaman wasn't in the powerful rivers of his homeland, but in the humble river God appointed. Likewise, our healing and deliverance are often found not in our own impressive plans, but in obeying God's simple instructions, even when they don't make sense to our logical minds. It's a powerful reminder that pride can block our blessings, while humility opens the door for God's miraculous power to work in our lives. Naaman had to let go of his status, his expectations, and his anger to receive his healing. In the end, Naaman's physical healing led to a profound spiritual transformation. He returned to Elisha, no longer a proud commander, but a humble believer. He declared, Now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. He tried to offer Elisha the lavish gifts he had brought, but Elisha refused, making it clear that God's grace cannot be bought. This miracle wasn't a transaction, it was a gift. Naaman left not just with clean skin, but with a new heart and a new faith. His story is a timeless testament that no one is beyond the reach of God's healing power. It doesn't matter what your title is, where you come from, or how hopeless your situation seems. God's healing is available, but it often requires us to lay down our pride, trust His seemingly strange ways, and simply obey. Sometimes the greatest miracle is found on the other side of our own humility. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more messages of hope. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you believe this message still applies today?